Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're going to be looking way ahead into the future of human evolution.
Sounds fascinating.
It is. We're going to be using this article, Pasted Text, which lays out 10 different ways humans might evolve.
10. Wow.
Yeah, some of them are pretty wild, kind of sci-fi,
Yeah.
but some are actually happening right now.
I'm intrigued. Like, what?
Well, how about merging with technology? Think cybernetic limbs, enhanced brains, even living way longer than we do now. Wouldn't that be something?
I mean, sure, it sounds exciting. Who wouldn't want a super brain or to live for centuries? But there are definitely some downsides to consider.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Pasted Text talks about the potential for mental manipulation if our brains are connected to technology.
Yeah.
Like, would we even be in control of our own thoughts?
Exactly. It's a huge ethical issue. And what about equality? Would everyone have access to these advancements, or would it just create a bigger gap between the haves and have-nots?
I bet those longevity treatments would be expensive. Only the super rich could afford to live forever, maybe. That wouldn't be good.
Right. It could lead to even more inequality and instability. We need to think very carefully about those consequences.
Okay, so moving on from cyborgs and superhumans, let's talk about genetic engineering. This is one area where things are already moving super fast.
Absolutely. Technologies like CRISPR are giving us the power to make very specific changes to our DNA.
And that means we could potentially eradicate diseases like cancer. No more chemo, no more suffering. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. But with that power comes a whole lot of responsibility. The idea of designer babies, where parents can choose their children's traits, it raises a ton of ethical concerns.
Yeah, Pasted Text talks about that too, the potential for genetic discrimination.
Right.
Like, what if certain traits are seen as more desirable? It could lead to a whole new kind of prejudice.
And then there's the question of unintended consequences. What if trying to eliminate one disease inadvertently creates new health problems down the line?
That's a scary thought. We're messing with the very building blocks of life. It's not something to take lightly.
Exactly. We need to approach genetic engineering with a lot of caution and foresight.
All right, ready to blast off to a whole other topic. Pasted Text also talks about space exploration and what kinds of adaptations we might need to live on other planets.
Now, that's what I call a giant leap for humankind. But yeah, it would definitely require some serious evolutionary adjustments.
Think about it, we'd need to be resistant to radiation, maybe have different bone density to handle lower gravity. Heck, we might even need to figure out how to create entirely self-contained ecosystems.
They talk about closed-loop biologies in Pasted Text. We'd have to recycle everything, air, water, waste, just to survive. Talk about going green.
It's wild to think about. But, learning about space adaptation actually makes me think about what's happening here on Earth with climate change.
That's a great connection. We might need to adapt to survive right here on our own planet, too. Think about it, a tolerance to extreme heat, more efficient ways to use water, even new sources of food. It's all connected.
So we're talking about adaptation, whether we stay on Earth or venture out into the stars. Evolution is happening all around us, constantly shaping us in ways we might not even realize.
And a big question is how much of that evolution is being driven by our own actions? Are we in the driver's seat, or are we just reacting to changes in the environment?
I don't know, but it's a pretty amazing thing to contemplate. What if our technology keeps advancing to the point where it fulfills all our basic needs? Would we even need to evolve biologically anymore?
That's a wild thought, isn't it? But even if our bodies stopped changing so much, I think our minds would keep evolving.
Yeah, especially in a world saturated with information and technology. Our brains might adapt to process information in entirely new ways.
Right. We might become masters of abstract thinking and problem solving. Pasted Text even talks about the possibility of collective intelligence, where our minds are all linked together.
Whoa, that's both incredible and a little scary. What would happen to individual identity in that kind of world? And how would it change the way we relate to each other?
It's hard to even imagine. It really raises questions about what it means to be human in a world of interconnected minds. And then there's the possibility of AI influencing our evolution, guiding us in directions we can't even comprehend.
Okay, now we're definitely getting into science fiction territory. It's also fascinating, but also a little unnerving.
True, these are just possibilities. But it's important to consider the full range of potential outcomes, both the amazing and the alarming. The future is full of surprises.
This deep dive is already making my head spin. So much to think about.
And we're just getting started.
All right, let's dive into something that sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie, shall we?
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this. Hybrid species, right?
You got it. Combining human and animal DNA. I mean, how wild would that be? Imagine having night vision like an owl or a sense of smell like a bloodhound,
The possibilities are definitely intriguing. Pasted text really gets into some fascinating scenarios.
doesn't it? But it also raises some pretty big ethical questions.
Oh, absolutely. It's not something to take lightly. Blending human and animal DNA goes way beyond anything we've attempted before.
Right. I mean, think about it. We've been selectively breeding plants and animals for centuries.
That's true.
We've created all sorts of different dog breeds, crops that can resist pests, even fish that glow in the dark. So, in a way, haven't we already been influencing evolution to create hybrid species?
Well, you could argue that, yeah, we've certainly been shaping the traits of other species for a long time.
Exactly.
But intentionally merging human and animal DNA is on a whole other level, ethically speaking.
For sure. It brings up some fundamental questions about what it means to be human.
Right. And what rights would these hybrid beings have? Do we even have the right to create them in the first place? These are really complex issues.
It's a slippery slope, for sure. But even with the potential risks, there's something about these possibilities that's just, I don't know, so compelling.
I know what you mean. It's like we're peering into this vast unknown, and we're both excited and a little terrified by what we might find.
Exactly. But, all this talk about radical transformation makes me wonder about the flip side. What if, instead of evolving rapidly, we hit a sort of evolutionary plateau?
You mean like a period of stasis,
Yeah.
where human evolution slows down significantly?
Yeah, exactly. Like we've reached peak human and there's nowhere left to go. What do you think? Is that even possible?
It's certainly a possibility. I mean, think about it. We've already used technology to buffer ourselves from many of the pressures of natural selection.
That's true.
We have medicine to combat disease, climate control to regulate our environments, even agriculture to ensure a steady food supply.
Right. So we're not really subject to the same survival of the fittest forces that drove evolution in the past.
Exactly. And as technology continues to advance, we might reach a point where our genes simply change very little over generations.
So no more superpowers, no adaptations for space travel, no merging with machines. Kind of a bummer, if you ask me.
Well, it might not be as exciting as some of the other scenarios we've discussed.
Yeah.
But it does raise an interesting question. If natural selection isn't the primary driver of our evolution anymore, then what is?
Ooh, good question. Does that mean we become responsible for our own evolution? Like we consciously choose which traits to enhance or eliminate?
It's a possibility. And it's a huge responsibility.
Totally. It makes you wonder if we're even up to the task, given our track record. I mean, look at how we've treated the environment.
I see your point. It's not exactly a vote of confidence in our long-term thinking, is it?
Nope. But hey, that's why it's so important to have these conversations.
Absolutely. We need to be aware of the potential consequences of our choices and start thinking about how we want to shape the future of our species.
Right. The future isn't set in stone. It's a tapestry that we're weaving together, thread by thread. Our choices matter.
And that tapestry is being woven right now, even as we speak.
Think about it. Every day, there are new scientific discoveries, technological innovations, new ideas about what's possible.
It's almost overwhelming to keep up with it all.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting. And speaking of exciting, Pasted Text explored one last scenario that I have to bring up.
Oh, what's that?
What if, instead of evolving as a single species, humanity fragments into multiple distinct subspecies?
Speciation. Now, that's a concept that usually gets relegated to science fiction, isn't it?
It does, but is it really that far-fetched? I mean, we're already seeing a growing divide between those who have access to cutting-edge technology and those who are being left behind.
You're right, that gap is definitely widening. And if it continues to grow, who knows what the consequences might be?
Exactly. Imagine a world where cyborgs with enhanced abilities live alongside genetically modified humans, while isolated communities cling to traditional ways of life. It would be a wild mix.
It would certainly be a world of incredible diversity, but also, I think, a world rife with potential for conflict and misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's the downside. How would these different subspecies interact? Could they coexist peacefully? Would we even recognize each other as human anymore?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely something to think about. These are the kinds of questions we might be grappling with for generations to come.
It's a lot to process, for sure, but I think it's important to consider all the possibilities, even the ones that make us a little uncomfortable.
I agree. Confronting these difficult questions is the only way we can hope to shape a future that embraces both the wonders and the challenges of human evolution.
Well said. And I think that leads perfectly into the final part of our deep dive today. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Merging with machines, altering our genes, adapting to space, even the possibility of becoming separate subspecies. It's pretty clear that the future of human evolution is, well, unpredictable to say the least. What stands out to you the most from everything we've talked about?
For me, it's the realization that we're not just passive passengers on this evolutionary journey.
We're in the driver's seat.
Exactly. Our choices, our values, the actions we take, they all play a role in shaping the future of our species.
That's both empowering and a little terrifying, don't you think?
It is, and it highlights the importance of making informed decisions. We need to be aware of the potential consequences, both positive and negative, of the paths we choose.
So understanding the science is important. But it's not just about the science, is it?
No, not at all. It's also about having these kinds of conversations.
Right. Thinking about the ethical implications, the societal impacts, the kind of future we want to create.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have a role to play in shaping our own evolution. It's not something that just happens to us. It's something we participate in.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. We're not just along for the ride. We're the navigators. We have a say in where we're going.
Precisely. And it's a journey that's full of both opportunities and challenges.
Pasted text really drives that point home.
It does. And it emphasizes that we need to be prepared for the unexpected. There will be setbacks, there will be difficult choices to make, and there will be moments where we have to reevaluate our course. But ultimately, it's a journey worth taking.
I agree. So where do we go from here? What's the most important thing for people to keep in mind as they think about the future of our species?
Well, I think it's crucial to stay informed, to stay engaged, and to never stop asking questions.
To keep that sense of wonder and curiosity alive.
Absolutely. And to remember that the future isn't fixed. It's something we create together through our choices and actions.
That's a great note to end on. This has been a truly fascinating deep dive. And as always, we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas and share your thoughts with us. What kind of future do you want to be a part of? Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.